investment, reality, investment by the deal, but how can you make a truly good deal without first having some idea of property's value? Inexperienced investors often tend to confuse the concept of fair market value and market price. Your objective as a good investor should be to estimate a property's fair market value as accurately as possible, and then negotiate the deal at a market price below the estimate. So I'm the two. So last week, I think it's Alex who asked me, what's the relevance of this? I think understanding investing in property is critical for an estate agent, both to understand the person you are selling to, who's the investor. If you are selling to an investor, you need to be able to understand what do they want and how do they look at value. How do they value a particular property, for instance? Then you can be able to appeal to them. The worst thing that can happen, and in some of the property shows, it's the inability to understand the person you're selling to. You'd find that you have a great product, but how you pitch it, it could just be totally off. So it's critical to understand that as estate agents, we are not only going to sell to people who are going to buy property and I think now there's been a great awakening. It's not only people who are going to buy property as their homes, but you are looking at developers. Here. So for me, a developer, it's a property investor. So it's the same thing. So you are looking at people who are going to say, okay, fine, maybe it's a home now, but what does it mean investment wise? Is it a good investment? I don't want it to be just something that I enjoy, but if something happens, I may not be able to get good value out of it. So it's important, and I'm just emphasizing that fact that understand the viewpoint of an investor, very critical. So your objective as a good investor should be to estimate property fair market value as accurately as possible, and then negotiate a deal at a market price below the estimate. First, however, you must be familiar with what each of these two terms actually mean. The term fair market value is essentially defined as the highest price that a ready, willing, and able buyer is likely to pay, and the lowest price that are ready, and the lowest price that a ready is likely to accept for the subject property. It is the probability, the probable price based upon the assumption that both buyer and seller have sufficient information and that the property has been on the market for a reasonable period of time. So the fair market value, which is FMV, as it is also commonly known, it's always an estimate. Market price, on the other hand, it's actual amount that the property sells for in a given market. This price actually may actually lower or equal to the fair market value estimate. In order to estimate market value, it's possible for you to use the same tools and methods that professional appraisers employ. The three most common used appraisal techniques are the market data. Very critical. Understanding the market data is very critical. Number two is the replacement cost. How much will it cost to be able to replace the is the income analysis. So if you look at for properties which you may find yourself using all these three, normally the property valuers, they will take into account all the three, or at times be able to emphasize more on one, and then the other ones are just supporting. But it's critical that at least somewhere, somehow, they need to be able to come to a way that they support each other, a consensus.
Moses?
I only need one or two. Let's look at now the simplified explanation of each. Market data method of valuation, or known as what we call sales comparison method. So all of you, you remember, you know how to use your Lightstone, correct? And I would assume so. Okay, is that a consensus among everyone that you've drawn a Lightstone report, and anyone who doesn't know what that is?
Good afternoon, Buramabulan.
Afternoon.
Perhaps it was went through last week Thursday's class. Before then, Rina tried to go before it. Marokari, the permit Lightstone had expired, or the credentials she had, they were not the correct ones. So we didn't go through
Sorry,
it.
sorry. Can I quickly add in, Moses? Now, that was something a technical problem. It's sorted.
It's sorted.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm not sure if do you think we should see if we can do it, or you'll find a different time?
I think we'll find a different time. We will do it in the OMAT class because the Lightstone credentials will not be available for anybody to use. So they will have to request a report from the office.
Okay, so but Rina,
Yes,
you can't say permit here because
okay, sorry.
not permit.
Okay, we can do
we
the
are in BMI.
Lightstone and okay,
So,
we will do the
so you can
Lightstone, but
either
then for
arrange a different time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can do it next Monday.
Okay. All right. So, but quickly, just to explain that, I wish I had one that I could be able to show. If Rina, if you have one quickly, if you can find one for me while I'm explaining this, it would be appreciated. I think I would want to show
I'll
something
I'll send it to you immediately.
for a
It's gonna
family
be
property for a home.
yeah. Yes, I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you. So basically here we look at the sales comparison. So we look at what are the similar properties selling for in the same area. So if you can mute for me, please, everyone, if you can mute. Okay, thank you. So we'll look across and say, if this is the property that I'm looking at, what do, if it's a one bedroom, you need to compare it with one bedrooms to say in the same area, what do similar properties look like? What Lightstone also does is it actually gives, if you get an area report, it will be able to tell you that this area is comparative to this particular area. Interesting enough, you'll find that maybe it's comparing it with the area that you even understand. So that helps to be able to give a much more fair comparison. So two bedroom, you'll compare it with another. How much does this in a similar market sell for? Number two, we in terms of valuation, we also look at the value that in Lightstone, that one of the things that will come is you'll have a valuation by the municipality. The municipality will put a valuation, and then you'll have what we call comparative valuation. So it means they've actually compared the valuation of a similar property, and then they'll be able to put the price. Sometimes or they could be the same. It depends. With the municipality, sometimes it could be a little bit behind, but the comparative valuation would be actually be maybe more closer to the right price. Okay. Learners notes the market data estimates of fair value is obtained by comparing the subject property with comparable properties of that have recently been sold. So it also shows how much the properties, the recent properties that have in an area, the value of the properties are pushed up or down depending on the previous sales. So if a house, and I think this is important aspect to also think about, if for instance there I've seen it sometimes in estates or places where there's a higher rental accommodation, not necessarily people buying for staying, but buying for investment, you'd find that the multiple houses in a particular area, if they can be able to be willing to buy at a higher price, it's most likely to push the whole place into higher prices. That's important to also note, The same way, if prices of the houses in the area are bought at a lower. So if, for instance, I'm able to convince multiple people to say we can buy, and I've seen that lawyers, people houses, basically with the aim of renter. If we are able to drive the prices lower, it will literally drive the prices of all other properties to be actually lower. You'd find that it's difficult when we look at the Lightstone and say, okay, similar prices, houses have sold for this price. Do you think you'll be willing to pay higher? No, nobody will be willing to do that. They'll be saying, no, but this is the price that is there. We can only be able to pay this because houses in this area, they sell this way. So facts of investors could actually be able to push the price higher or actually even lower. It comes back to supply and demand. If there is a higher demand for something, it will definitely be able to shoot the prices to be higher. If the demand is low, even the price, it's not going to be able to do very well. The prices will definitely be shot down. Okay, so
Mr. Ramabulan.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm with you, Matsitiso.
Yes, I wanted to find out. So, if, for instance, I stay, say, in a particular suburb and I renovate my house, and the prices are going for an average of, let's say, the 1.2, will that be
Yes.
the case if I would now want to sell that house?
Okay. So the network is a bit poor. I don't know if it's on my side, but I think I captured the question, Matsitiso.
Okay.
So if you've renovated, let me give a good example. Okay, maybe let's start from what you've just said. The prices are lower. It could come back to either, in terms of comparative price, you would find that it's 1.2. Whether you've gone overboard, that's what we're over investing. So you've over invested on your property. It may not be able to sell at that price unless then the fair value comes in. Unless if you find a particular client who's willing to say, you know what, I think looking at what you have inside, you can be able to, I'm willing to pay a higher price for it. You understand? But it's not advisable. Yes, it's not advisable to over-invest in a particular property. If it's beyond what the other houses are around the area, you will find it difficult. Not only with the, remember now, it's no longer just about the buyers and sellers. It's also, there's another third player, which is the bank. The bank, when they come, before they give a bond to someone, they need to be able to bring a valuer to say, are you happy with the valuation? If the valuer says no, it's not worth it, and you are saying this one is one, but the valuer says no, it's 1.2, the bank would say, okay, we are willing to give you 1.2. If you want to add, then you will put it either as deposit or your own money, but we can only go as far as 1.2. In areas like township or things like that, there's always a market cap. Once the banks understand, they value the whole area and say areas like this will not go beyond this, depending, looking at the area, the LSM that is there in the area, they will rate it and say houses in this area will not go beyond this price. So it means the banks, even though their house, looking at what has been done inside and all that, maybe even the size could fetch a higher price, the bank will say, no, we can only go up to this much, because they will not be able, if something goes wrong with the buyer, they will not be able to sell it and recover the money at that particular price. Does it make sense?
It makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So the
Yes.
Lightstone report how far off is it different from the evaluation that's done on property 24 with regards to the average selling price in a particular area? I think we went it with Rina through the class, the one on property 24. So how far are the two apart?
Yeah. So normally, if it's not a specific report, so there are two things. Property 24 gives that is free, like an area report, that if you go to property 24, you'll be able to, if we say, I don't know, which area can we put? So if we pick an area, hello?
Pick out Dean, because I've sent through the valuations from Lightstone on Oak Dean. Then you can compare.
Oak Dean. How do you spell Oak Dean?
Oakdene. Oak.
Okay. So there's this one here which talks about trends. So this one, they just look at peak. Mostly they use the prices depending on what was listed and all those things. But there is a report that you can pay even on property 24. So if I go this.
Moses, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, those first two bars, the urban and the sectional title, that is information directly from the deeds office. From there on, it is the actual listings.
Oh yes, these ones, the property on sale, the ones at the bottom.
Now, property for sale, that is on property 24 itself. Go to the top, those ones, the urban and the sectional title, the first two bars, those two is directly from the deeds office. So if you just put your cursor there on the bar, the red, just put it there.
You can see 2020.
Yeah, there is the average price.
Do you see 1.350? You come here for the sectional title 2020, it's 950,000. So the details, so it's good to actually get the, because it's much more detailed, like your Lightstone report. And then you have, this is based on the asking price is based on what was listed. So this one shows, this is the average listing price for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. This is the average listing price. 3-bedroom, this is the average listing price. So these are some of the things you can be able to also see the market, who owns the property around there. What's the age group and all that. So this helps you to define, and I think for an estate agent, when you go and canvass a property, you need to be able to at least have this report to discuss with the seller so that you can be able to agree on a specific price. They will have the price that they have in their own heads, but it's important for you to come and bring in real data and say, look, I understand this, what you'll be looking at, but the market says this. This is what you could be able to putting your price very high. Let's put it according to what the market is willing to be able to go with. Any questions so far? Okay, so I'll assume.
I think we are good. If perhaps we can see that Lightstone for Oak Dean, then we'll see how the two compare.
Did you send it to me, Rina?
Yes, Moses, it is the law. I've sent you two slides. One is for the property, how it looks like, and the last one is the report.
So there is a difference. Another thing, just maybe to make it clear, there is a difference between a property report, which is specific to the property, and an area report. So this one will be an area report. So if you look at that, it shows average household income. Can you all see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, yes, you can see.
So there is the demarcated area. So you can be able to see this is the demarcated area. It's important also maybe just to emphasize that the specific property, you need to make sure that the names could be, there could be Ogden extension, what, if there are different extension, especially around Ekurhuleni. Kempton Park, there's about 4 different types of Kempton Park. If you use Kempton Park, for instance, so you would want to choose a specific one that you are looking at. So you need to look at that map and say, does it represent what you are looking for? If not, it means maybe you got the wrong report. Market stock, it will show you freehold estates. There's the number of stock that is available. Sectional title, these are, you can see that it's got a lot of sectional titles. Freeholds, it's about 27%. Your freeholding estate, it's about 0.8%. Now, these are of ownership, how long do people own? It will show in terms of even the percentage, and you can see also the age group, who's moving in, who's staying. This is important to understand who's the buyer, who are the recent buyers. You can see 5% it's pensioners. The biggest buyers in these areas are 18 to 35. So it means Ogden, it's appealing to the young people. But if you look at the stables, who are the recent sellers, at the same time, the youth, okay, so the middle-aged, they are sort of selling. It's important when you look at data. One of the things to understand is to say, why are these guys selling? For instance, and the older guys is 13% that are selling, but there's also 14% who are stable, who are not necessarily moving around. So that's understanding your market. You move forward. Property transfers. So this will tell you what has been transferred in terms of what has already been, I think, lodged at the deeds office. You can be able to see the 1.5. So if you look at here, there's been a count of 2 between October 2019 and September. There's only been 2. So there's not been much movement in terms of this, the estate freehold. But you go to the freeholds, there's been a lot of movement. 800 to 1.5, it's about 10. 3 million, it's about 12. So you can be able to see what types of properties are actually selling. But if you look at last year, things were not, there was not much movement happening here. And then you go to the sectional titles, those are actually moving. You can see there's about 96 already that has already been sold between October last year and now. Freeholds is land only. So see, developed versus land only. Those are some of the things that you can check. Median price, so you can be able to see the average prices that are going for. So the median price 2020, it's around, so we are looking at sectional title is the green. We are looking at around 900 per unit. So you can go into detail and check which one. Sales executed, these are the sales that have been executed in a particular area. You can be able to see 5, 2019, it's been 2, like that. Freeholds, you can see in terms of ranking, like what I was saying, you can be able to see. So if you don't understand the area, you can then compare what is the nearest suburb ranking. So you can see Ogden, it goes with Grenada, it goes with, you understand Rosettenville or Eastcliff, you can Basonia. I think Bridget, you probably understand Basonia. So those are the areas around. national ranking, you can be able to see this is the ranking. Ne? You can see they are more or less the same. So it's more in the same Winchester Hills. It's ranked along the same lines as Winchester Hills. The other ones are outside. So in Gauteng, you are looking at Fountain. So if you understand Winchester Hills, you can be able to see, at least it gives you a better understanding of what Ogden look like, even if you don't know Ogden that market very well. National ranking is the same. You can be able to see where does it compare to in terms of nationally. So we look at the kind of Equestria, which is here in Pretoria East, North Riding, which is in Joburg. So you can be able to compare to those. So this is an area one. That's another thing to actually look at, what are the amenities close by, and that will tell you the kind of property you have. The lending by institution, so you can be able to see which institutions have been more open to this market. You can see these are the different ones that have been more active, but there's been a bit of a decline, as you can see. Some of them are actually almost non-existent anymore. You can be able to see these are the different banks, and the appetite of the area. When you are buying, even for bond originators, you'll be able to see not all banks have the same appetite for same areas. Okay, so this is the area or suburb report. There is a specific property report. That one, that's where it will show you the valuation from the municipality. It will also show you what is a comparative valuation. It will also show you the houses, how much the houses in the same area have sold. 2-bedroom. It distinguishes even how many bathrooms and all those things. How it breaks it down very nicely. You can be able to compare much better if you use that. Okay.
Moses, the first one is a property.
Okay, maybe I can open it just to show. So for those who know it, please just bear with us for the sake of accommodating others. Ne? There we go. So it's looking at this property. So if you can see, there is the property details, the property description, your F number, your street number, the unit size. It explains that the bigger F, what is the mother F? It means the stand that it's in. It talks about also the sectional title. You can see that it's a sectional title. Last sale price. It was last sold for 100,000 now. The owner's details. This is the owner. You can see the registration, the ID number, the title deed, very important. Some of these things you can be able to compare if the person you are canvassing or the person who's selling, if it's the real owner, then it's easy to be able to tell from this. What does married out mean? They are no longer married. Rina?
It's out of community.
Out of community.
Out of community meaning everyone can sign on his own.
Okay.
With an anti-nuptial contract.
All right. Thank you. So now look at this one. This one shows what is happening in the street, same within the same vicinity. So if you check, I'll show you this map. You can see all these numbers here are actually representing the properties that are here. You can be able to see these numbers. Number 8 it's here to see where number 8 is compared to the property that you are looking for. This one we said is 37 square meters. Ne? You can see these are the other 37 square meters. Rate per square meter. This is important because your rate per square meter, if you can see, the sale price of this one was 330. The one at the bottom, the sale price was 263. So you can be able to find somewhere, somehow be able to see all these are 37 square meters, but you can see the difference. This one was 190. but you look at the year, this was 2020, this one was 2019. Same size, but this one sold at 190, this one sold at 300. The size is the same. The question is, what's the difference? So it's not the street, it's not the same. This one is Minar Street, the other one is Tambo. So you can be able to compare. So all these details are here. Now, the comparative valuation that I was talking about is 273. So if you are to determine the price, you could probably even go for this, or you look at what others were selling for, then you find the median price, and that's how they've come up with this one. The municipal valuation is 255,000. So you can see there's not much difference that is there. When was it valuated? Year 2020. So that's important. So you can see it's not an old valuation, closer to the real value. What else? Okay, so it shows here the transfer history. You can see where it started. It started here, 56. That was which year it was purchased. This is the purchase date. It was 1996, and this was, and it was bought by Nonyana Regional Tabo or Tabo. Then from there, Tabo sold to Bier Leon, or Best Leo Antal Fan. I don't know what is this Afrikaner, Rina? Is this Afrikaans?
No, it's Dutch.
Or it's Chinese? Dutch. Okay,
Dutch.
all right. Dutch. So you can see this is that you can see how much the person they bought it for. It was 180. This can also help. Sometimes when you find the seller is distressed, they are probably comparing how much they bought the property for and how much the profit they've made. So they may not necessarily be interested in the valuation per se, but to say, at least I still want to make a profit, for instance, or I don't want anything lower than what I bought it for. It's you can be able to look at some of those. Street transfer, you can see what has been happening, the activities that have been happening in the street. But this one, it's important to look at the similar comparison, so that you don't, even though it's the same street transfer, the prices, you find that the size, it's not the same. So you want to be able to make sure you look at that. You see that one, it's at 500. The question is it the same square meter or not? Maybe that's bigger, a bigger unit. Suburb trends, the same thing as we have, and the amenities that it shows, and that, in short, it's our Lightstone report. Okay, I hope I still have my audience. Are you still there? Any question before I move forward? Okay, thank
Moses,
you. Yes?
We still here. Thank you very much for that. You know, with Lightstone, for some reason, that municipal valuation, or at least the ones that I've looked at, they are always anything 75% to 50% less than what
They are always
75% to 50% less the value that was put by municipality there, less than, let's say, if you compare the average selling price on Property 24 or even on Lightstone itself. I don't know why, or perhaps maybe I was not looking at the latest valuation. Like you just said, now you must see if the valuation is 2020.
Can I say something,
So,
Moses? You actually want that municipality valuation low because you pay your rates and taxes. Sorry, Moses, can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say that you want that municipality valuation low. You are not going to fight that municipality because that is how they work your rates and taxes out. It's according to that valuation. We normally do not use the municipality valuation we work out according to the Lightstone, the average selling price in that area.
Okay.
Oh, so
Thank
Rina,
you, Rina.
what you're saying is that that municipal property valuation, it's for their rate and taxes, and we can't really use it for the selling price of the property.
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The other thing maybe to also just check with the municipal valuation was stolen is it times, and this is maybe important. We've had a transaction recently where it was somebody bought the land and they built. The municipal valuation was still low because they were still looking at it as land. Now, when the lodgement, the house was bought for about 2 million, and when the lodgement was done, the SARS came and said, no, there's something is not matching. It should correlate with what is the price of the house. So there was a need to be able to get a valuer to go there and do a valuation, different valuers, because they needed to compare and then submit to SARS for them to be able to put it at the accurate price. Otherwise, even when it comes to lodging, they were not going to accept that because the disparity was going to be way too high. So those are some of the things to look at. Do that. Sometimes it could help to start that process of getting valuers on board. If you can see that this doesn't look, the prices here, the municipal valuation, it's way too low than it's necessary. Okay.
Can
Thank
I
you.
also Moses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I work for a municipality, so I've got an opportunity to be involved in the evaluation processes. So we need to bear in mind that municipal valuations happens once every 4 years. So because it happens once every 4 years, it won't necessarily be the same as the current market.
Yeah.
However, we put a certain percentage as an estimate of what will be happening in the market for the next 4 years. If it was only land and now you suddenly build, it is very important that you build following all municipal processes, because once you finish building, then they will give you a special valuation. You don't wait for the 4 years. They'll give you a special valuation so that your valuation could be in par and you don't get challenges with SARS. But municipal valuation is a 4 years process, and what is happening in the market will always be higher than the 4 years that the municipality period runs. Thank you.
Beautiful said. Thank you. I love that because we're drawing from different experiences. Thank you, Patricia, for that.
Moses, I have a question.
Okay, so yes.
Moses, sorry, I've got a question. What happens when the municipal value of a property is higher than the actual purchase price? Does that make sense? Can that happen? Or when that happens, is there discrepancy? Is there something wrong?
Rina, maybe you can take this one.
Yes, no, I know for sure, even in our mentorship, there was one day that we did a check, and the property was valued for more than the actual selling price and the current price is selling in the area. Then you can go to the municipality. Maybe Patricia can advise on the process, but you can go to the municipality and lodge a complaint, and then they will do a revaluation. That's what they told me they're going to do. So maybe Patricia can advise on that one as well.
I saw a property where the municipal valuation was over 950K, but the person bought the property for 300,000.
Yeah, but then you must also look, is that why did he pay 300,000? Is that the real value or was it just a bargain?
That was the seller's price. That's what he wanted to in his pocket.
Gee,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
a big difference.
If I may come in.
Looking at the area and also the condition of the place, they were not in the best of conditions. The area itself is not in the best of conditions. But now when you look at the municipal valuation, it is way, way, way high. And the seller knew that he was not going to have more than 400,000 on that property. So he settled for 300K.
Okay, if I may come in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Remember, the value has got nothing to do with what you do on the property. Your property might be valued at $1 million, and you allow it to run down in the next 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Municipal value will not necessarily follow what you're doing on your property. Municipal value, because they look at the property and how they valued it previously. So that value will continue to increase even though you have let your property run down. So the two does not really correlate.
Yeah.
It's a property that was valued at 300,000 before, and it has to increase in value because it's a property. In the meantime, you are not maintaining it. So they won't come and say, oh, you are not maintaining, so let's reduce your value.
Okay.
So you need to also,
but
so
what about the downtrend in area?
That's actually very true.
So it doesn't mean that the property actually valued at 300,000, because maybe you only need to spend 100,000 and it suddenly values 1 million
Comes
because
back.
the value was 950.
But Patricia, can I quickly ask you a question on this one? And I'm taking now Eastland in Pretoria as an example. If you take Eastland quite a few years ago, the value was quite high there, or average, because it's close to everything. But all of a sudden, the whole area the value of the area dropped very much. There's a lot of crime. There's not nice people staying there anymore. And I've actually got a property in there that is a late estate. And the value is 900 according to the municipality valuation and so on. But the owner will not get more than 500 or 600 max for that property. So how do you do? Oh.
But you see now, that is an area challenge. What Alex was talking about was one property in a highly valued area. That property will not affect what's happening in the area. However, you are now talking about an entire area that is now affected. So what we do, we also have objection process. I don't know if any one of you ever got involved in an valuation objection process. That is where people will then go and make a representation regarding value of the properties in their particular area. And sometimes people do that in group form, which makes it easier for the municipality to even listen to. So the municipality, because they want income through your rates and taxes, they will not reduce it unless a special representation is made there to the municipality. And maybe the municipality will listen, but it's not very easy for them to just drop their valuation because they want income through your rates and taxes.
But now the area of the properties, the area that the property is in is not so good. Is not so good. And actually, as a matter of fact, the tenants in the building blocks around there don't even want to go and open accounts by the municipality because they know that the municipality is going to mess up, just like Joburg Water and Joburg City Power are doing now with our water bills and electricity bills. So almost all the guys are not paying their rates and taxes. So won't it be a motivating factor for the municipality to come down in the area and say, let us relook at the values of these properties and somehow readjust it so that we can do proper business?
You are definitely right. Hence, I'm saying you need to make a representation. There's a process. Okay. It's a complicated it's not really complicated, but the municipality will frustrate you in the process. That's where you lodge an objection. So that process is there, but we still find ways to frustrate you because we don't want to reduce. But the process is there for you to follow, for such challenges to be addressed by the municipality.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Shall we move
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is
Sorry,
the
Moses.
exercise. Yes.
Moses, just a question on the side. For
Okay.
a normal house, 4 bedroom, 5 bedroom, whatever, how much can an evaluator cost you to come and evaluate a house you want to buy? Not necessarily if you're selling, because if you're selling, the agent and can assist, but you want to get a house and you want evaluation on that.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Rina can be able to advise. I've only done
Yes,
for a development.
Yeah, a valuator on a residential property can be anything between about 6,000 to 12,000 rand. If it's on a commercial property, it can go up to, I think, 60,000 rand. It depends what they must do. But remember, we as agents are giving sales valuation, not sworn valuation. We as agents never ask for a sworn valuator. In fact, attorneys can ask us to do sales valuation on late estates and trust properties.
Rina,
Okay.
Yes.
it goes for way cheaper than that. I recently done a evaluation on my house. The evaluator was from APTA, and they charged me 1.5.
But is that a sworn
Oh,
valuator?
okay.
Pardon?
Was that a sworn valuator?
That a registered valuator, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I got them from APTA.
Okay, I think maybe because of COVID, their prices may be dropped now. So yes.
Yeah. 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 All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So I urge you again, let's go and do this exercise. Like I said, this one, it's a must for an estate agent, because those are some of the things that we are going to discuss with the person that the seller, to say this is what we are looking at. You can put we can put this house at this price in the market. I know this is what you are looking for, but how do we justify it? So you need to always come out like understand what's happening. So you don't just go and take, when a person is, they're just thumb sucking numbers and say, I need 2 million. And you can tell that the prices in the area will never fetch that kind of a price. So I think that your numbers will be able to help. Such reports like a Lightstone will be able to make the seller to understand that what they're looking at, maybe it's a pie in the sky. It's not realistic, but a realistic price will probably be this much.
So what happens if the seller is
Uh,
on their price?
Okay, so Rina, with your experience, maybe that one you can be able to come in. The seller is adamant on the price, and
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense in the market.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's say that.
Like what you do is you first do the listing, and after the listing you go back to the office and you do a full market study and report for the seller to say how are you going to market his property, and then you go back and you show him the Lightstone report and why you say that the property is overpriced. If he still insists on the property, what I do is I will never take a sell and exclusive mandate, because that property is going to be in the market for life, and it's going to blackmail your name. I'll just then take an open mandate. But you plant the seed already to show him that that property is overpriced. However, take a purchaser out there and let the purchaser then look at the property. Normally, you must remember, if you take the purchasers to a few properties, they will immediately see with their own eyes this property is overpriced. And maybe they do like the property and they want to put an offer in. I always sign an offer, doesn't matter how many thousands is it less than the asking price, because then at least you've got a stepping stone to start with negotiation.
Okay. All right.
Rina,
Does that answer your question, Camilo?
Yes, it does answer. Thank you very much.
Rina, I wanted to ask a question. When a property price has been reduced for a number of times, does that have a negative effect on the name of the company or the agency?
No, I won't say at the agency, but what I will advise the seller, take your property totally out of the market for a week or two, and let's go back into the market with new photos, new description, and new price.
Okay.
Okay. So my this is that as a specific company, if you're running an estate agency, there could be things that a reputation that you are looking at. The numbers of how much you are able to sell, they matter. If you have properties that take too long on your listing and they're not selling, that doesn't speak well about your company. If you are an estate agent directly doing that, it also doesn't speak well about you either. So my principle, it's simple. If something does not make listing time, unless if Rina, you tell me that the legislation says I'm forced to list. But if I can see that we are not agreeing on the reasonable price in the market, I wouldn't take what I know already as a professional that it will not be able to sell or it will take long to sell. I would rather not take that property at all and allow others to continue to do it. You cut your losses, you move on.
Yeah,
that's my take to it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, Moses. However, I do list the property, but I'm very much open with the seller to tell him, listen, I am listing the property, I'm listing the price that you want for the property, but I do not agree on that. So we'll put it on the market and see what the purchaser comes in. And if in 2 weeks' time you did not get any response, that gives you enough fireworks to go back to the seller and say, listen, this property is now well advertised for 2 weeks and there was not even one response. So can we talk about the price now? So you keep on negotiating. I won't say throw it off totally, but I will definitely not take a sell mandate.
Okay. All right. Good advice. One, it's coming from the heart of an experienced person. The other one, it's coming from somebody who says, we are in business here. We don't throw in resources. 2 weeks open, you are busy doing something and you know it's not going to move. I wouldn't waste my time if a person is adamant. But of course, you reason with them and give them what happened. The other element, maybe let me not bring what will derail us from this lecture. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. The other element is the replacement value. So we've looked at market comparison, and then we have a replacement cost method valuation. You must first fundamentally presume that the property can be reproduced or replaced. So you estimate that cost, except in those cases where the preservation for historic purposes and typically calculate replacement cost estimates under the assumption that the current materials, tools, and technology would be used to build the replacement property. The replacement cost technique is usually employed when there are few similar properties in the area, thus making a market data analysis difficult. It is also typically used when there will be no income from the property. For example, a fixer-upper property located fixer-upper would be to use a different word, or a property that you can fix and then sell at a proper market price. It's distressed, located in a county road and bought for a purpose of, this is like American language. We don't have country road, it just means rural or something like that, and bought for the purpose of flipping it. Reselling it quickly would not be appropriate for either a market data or income analysis evaluation. Keeping things simple, there are 5 basic steps to appraising. Number 1, estimate the value of the land. Number 2 is estimate the current cost of replacing the structure with similar one. Number 3, estimate the amount of accrued depreciation. Number 4, deduct the estimated accrued depreciation amount from the estimated replacement cost. Finally, add the estimated land value to the value calculated in step 4. So we have a different way of doing it when we calculate a dividend. I wish I had enough time, but for some of you who have been part of my development class, I think I've shown you when we do the economics of property, of how we calculate using maybe what it would cost to be able to build the similar kind of a unit. Sometimes using even the market value or the rental, which is the next step that we are coming in. Okay, analysis method of appraisal. This one I'll jump quickly because I want to show you. I think I've used one last week here just to demonstrate that there are two ways to it, two acceptable methods in the market using the income. Number one, it's what we call using a cap rate. The other one, which is the easiest one, and apparently it's actually mostly in South Africa, is the most where a cap rate would either be in the affordable market, you are looking at around 11%. You can see my screen, can you? Because I might just be talking alone.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we
You can
can.
see this screen, right? Yeah, it could be around 11% when a property is a bit distressed or it's not in good condition. You are looking at 13%. So that's the worst. The likes of TAF, when they go for buildings in the city center, they will use 13% as a way. So they won't pay anything higher than 13% as a cap rate. So I gave you a comparison of the dawn that when we were versus affordable housing. So this is a situation where your income can actually give a higher appraisal on the property compared to maybe even what we call the intrinsic value of the property itself. So because it brings into account, in the case of a development, we have the building itself, which we have the building itself plus the cash flow. So the two, they make up the business. So it's not just a valuation of the property itself, because that the property creates a cash flow and this becomes the business. So your valuation, it's not just the replacement value of the building, it's looking at how much income it will generate. And that will take into account, for instance, that your rental will probably increase every year. That every year you'd find that you have a normal increase of maybe 7%, or when the market is not doing very well. For instance, if it's doing very well, it could be as high as maybe 10% in certain areas. Again, to be able to see how the rentals are going in a particular area and how they've increased, there's another report, TPN report. I actually like it. It has different, almost some similar details as Lightstone, but it goes a little bit deeper into the rental market as a whole. Like it will tell you how much the rentals have increased in a particular area. It will tell you the instance whether there is the rate of default, how many people are paying, how many people are not paying in a particular area. So that's the information that you can be able to use to be able to determine, to say in the coming 5 years, you are looking at an increase of rental of this much. So using a cap rate, for instance, this is how we've calculated it. Do you still remember, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so simple method. Your rental, you multiply your monthly rental multiplied by 12, so it means your annual rental. you divide that by your cap rate, either 13%, which is at a dilapidated lower value, or 11%, which is a nominal. It means it's still good property, but that's affordable. If you go to the areas like Sandton, your cap rate will be around 8%. Like Sapoa will publish this type of rates every year on their documents, on their book. They will be able to show that the cap rate it's at this much. That's the long and the short of it. The other method beside the cap rate is what we call the cash flow, free cash flow discounted methodology. It's a bit complicated. It's got its own formula, which for today I may not necessarily dwell into that. But if you are interested, some other time we can be able to show you how you do that. But I've got a spreadsheet. It's normally done by accountants. But I would say for recommend is probably the quickest and easier for anyone to understand, even the investor, without necessarily going into the complexity of the other free cash flow discounted methodology. Any questions so far?
Not a question, but a humble request. I think the first one of the first weeks when we had I think a guest lecture, then he had promised that he would do on a Thursday a lecture on the economics of property, and I think it was touching some of these things that you are talking through. Perhaps maybe let's budget a Thursday for that economics of property so that we can go through that only in detail.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll definitely do that. There is the capitalization rate, or what I call cap rate. You can be able to, it's mostly or large investments, your office buildings, your shopping centers, and all those. And I think that's it. Yeah, Bostole, agreed. I think it's important we'll be able to capitalize. So Rina, if you can help us, we can arrange that time and be able to give that lecture on economics of property, maybe even valuation. Maybe some of the things I would have loved to do if I had enough time would be to also show you how, when you a typical example of let me show this one, but I want to allow Rina to have time before we leave. So your different investment schemes, like your rate and all that, given the time, maybe those are some of the things we can have a special lecture for. I would like to take you through different ones, like we have what we call your mortgage rate, or real estate investment trust. We have what we call your equity real estate investment trust. Which one would be the better investment? How do we apply it in of developers, investors, estate agents? How do you look at that? And I think this is critical information to help, especially those who also wants to sell developments. Some of this information will be able, knowledge will be able to help you to have a better articulation of the investment property to a particular investor. And I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. For now, we can be able to take to keep it there. It's basically some of the things that we have touched on. I wouldn't want to be able to dwell much more in detail, but the emphasis in all this is to say, as a real estate agent, you need to be able to understand that you're not only selling to people who are going to buy property to stay to as a home. You're also going to be selling to investors, whether it's a family house, whether it's a 2-bedroom, whether it's apartment, whether it's a sectional title. So your broad understanding, even further, if you are going to development, that broad understanding of what it means, it's critical. Two things before I close that are more critical in investment. One, it's to look at the issue of the cash. I think when I was opening last week, it's to say, is the investor looking at a cash which is property that will be able to give them cash every month, for instance, which if they buy a rental property, they can rent out, they'll be able to get that income. Or it's somebody looking at an equity, which is having a stake that will grow. So as the property appreciates, their equity also appreciates. As the income appreciates, it also grows their equity. So those are different dynamics for different investors. Long-term versus short-term. The other element to throw in is the issue of liquidity. How liquid is the investor looking at the investment? Do they want to be able to implement the cash out quickly? It will depend on what will they be interested in investing. If it's an investment, they would rather maybe go to real estate trust, because that way it's traded through the stock exchange and all that. So it means they can sell their shares at any time. But the moment a person buys a building, it's not something that you can sell as quickly as you would want to, compared to when it's in the stock exchange, for instance. And ladies and gentlemen, I think I've probably given an overview of investing in property. The details will thresh it. I think if there's any specific thing we want to deal with, we can thresh it with a special lecture that will allow us enough time to zoom in. I thank you.
Thank you, Moses. I think this was really quite interesting. And I think out of this module, we can have at least 2 or 3 sessions with you to give us more detail on each area. Anybody else wants to say something?
We're good, Rina. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What I'm going to do, and this is going to be very quick, 5 minutes.